This is the Coaching Life Podcast, episode number 141. And it's been a while.
A little bit.
Sitting across from my
So
good friend,
these days.
Coach Pat Martin. Yep.
Coach, how's it going, man?
Going well.
Me too.
You?
Nice
Yeah.
day out.
It is.
Campus
This
is
is
nice
a
and
nice
quiet.
week. It's a great week to get back into the podcasting thing here inside.
What's going
In
on
the
at
studio.
campus? Right. What's going on at campus? I see a lot of people here.
A
Actually,
lot of camps and things like that. A
Okay.
lot of
Yeah.
high school student camps, things like that. You know, I know, like our college journalism camp. I think later this week, is a media camp beginning, and then there's still what do you call it? Up close visits and things like that. Where
Gotcha.
admissions.
There's a lot of student aged people here. That's why I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I didn't really notice it coming in. I did, but I didn't think about it.
Yeah, you haven't been here in a while.
No. Well,
I mean, when you
it's
walk
been
in
a
the
couple
studio and say it feels weird to not have a mask on, I'm like, my gosh, buddy, mask is so 2020. It's 2023. We haven't worn masks here in forever.
It doesn't feel weird not to have a mask on. It feels great.
Yeah, right.
But
Right.
just seeing a bunch of people walk out of this building.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
It's been a while. When was our last episode? I mean, we're
after, it was in the beginning of June. Right?
June 12th. It's the last
Yeah.
time we put an
So the end of
episode out. So
July,
we're
yeah.
looking at one episode a month. We're getting there.
Coach Amsbury out there is just, we're driving him crazy. Chris Snoffer's mad at me because I know when we released our, the June episode. That's
Tales from the Field or something like that. Stories from the Ball Diamond.
We were releasing them once a month now, but he was like, "Thank you so much for putting that out because I listen to you guys when I drive."
Man, that's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yep. So try to get back in the swing of things. Things should be slowing down for the next
I'm
month.
good for it if you're good for it. I'm good to get back into. Let's just decide right now, right here,
I'm struggling,
live.
Coach.
Well, you've got things planned still for your program for the rest of the summer. Like you're starting your camp today.
Yeah, youth camp today.
Yeah, that's
starts at 6
excellent.
o'clock. So plan on leaving
Well, we
here
should have
and
started
going-
this podcast episode at 6 o'clock, and we just mic'd you up, put a wireless mic on you, and just talk while you're coaching, and give everybody that live feel.
Well, see, I'm
that
a-
mic'd up. Coach Martin mic'd up.
I'm
on
a
the field.
CEO coach, so I just delegate all the coaching, So
we wouldn't hear anything.
No, you
You
wouldn't. Just hey,
It'd just be like a normal podcast.
I'd be asking
episode.
kids about what their favorite food is and where they want to go to college and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
What's your favorite Big League Chew
I get to do the
flavor?
fun stuff during
That's right.
camp. No, I think
I'm with you there. 100%.
Yeah.
Get enough volunteers to do the work, and then you just float around and film. And
Yeah. Right now, I think I'm stationed at our running during our running sessions. So base running. Yeah.
I was thinking like the kids that get in trouble are coming to you, and you're going to make them run.
But I'm gonna try to get some of our high school players to take that over and
Are you timing them from home to first?
we're probably gonna go. We got a wide range of kids. So we've got
yeah.
a lot of kids that
Yeah.
are running 60-foot bases, and also we'll have kids that are running 90-foot bases. So
At the same time?
Yeah.
Okay, you're not doing like two sessions.
well, no, it'll be different times.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have the younger kids.
Let me ask you
together.
this. This is a field question. Do you put your throwdown bases in the grass for that 60 foot?
In the outfield, yeah.
You do it in the outfield?
Yeah.
We went ahead. So we run our camp in the early summer, so we got time to regrow that grass. But we let them run around on our grass, on our infield grass. Of course,
Oh,
our
on
grass
your
isn't
infield
as good
grass
as
you did?
yours. I mean, yeah.
Nah, I
we're
can't
still
do that.
working on our infield grass. Yeah, we had no water last summer, so our grass this year was like
I thought your grass
terrible.
looked good though.
It just had no roots.
Yeah.
You could slip if you went to pick up a shallow ground ball or something, a soft ground ball, and tried to plant your foot. You'd slip and you'd pull up a bunch of grass that
One of our guys
that
did
didn't have any
slip.
roots
I
at
remember
all.
during one
Yeah.
of the games. Yeah. But how did you didn't cut your grass, did you?
We during the season this year from whenever we were able to get outside late February to mid-May, I think we may have mowed our infield grass 3 times. That's how bad
So
our
when
grass
you
was.
mow your grass, how
But I did roll it so that it had that look to it.
yeah.
But I mean, we would mow it to even it out. Like I would,
Right. But how
we didn't have to. I mean,
How
it's-
high? Because
during the season,
yeah.
2.5 inches. 2 and a quarter.
Your
it was
grass
low.
looks so much lower than ours. Like we mow ours 2.5. It's so
Part of
thick.
that was strategic too. We wanted those ground balls to get through our infield. Our infield is hard.
Well, and the same way for us. I wanted ours a little bit high too, just to slow the ball down from a defensive perspective. But still, it doesn't seem like it matters on our field how low we mow it. It's I don't know.
Pretty
if it's
thick.
It's just thick, and the ball it just catches the ball. I don't know.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Our eyes are lighting up talking about infield grass.
Oh, I know.
and people are like, what in the world?
We
are
spent
these
20
things?
minutes here before we turned the record button on, talking about how to mow your infield grass.
Yeah, and irrigation.
Yeah, irrigation. Yeah, I literally drew. I'm looking at a piece of paper where I drew a diagram of where all of our sprinkler heads are on our field, because that's the stuff we live for right there. Let me tell you. Going to Major League Baseball games, and the first thing you notice is, man, the pattern of that cut on the infield is pretty cool. I'm going to do that with mine.
Everyone was, people were hitting BP and stuff, and I was watching the grounds crew. Like, seeing what
I
they were
know.
doing.
I want to get there early for that very reason. Have you ever watched what they do to a professional baseball field when the team goes on a road trip, like on the off days? It is really fascinating. Like we went to when Brock was about 11 years old, I think we were playing in a tournament in Cincinnati, and one of the guys on our team, one of the kids' dads, his brother or cousin, somebody he's related to, runs the Hall of Fame Museum at Cincinnati at the Reds, and they had just opened it up. It was pretty new, and so he said, "Come out, we'll run your kids through the Hall of Fame Museum." He said, "We'll give them a stadium tour, and they can go down in the dugout and all that."
Awesome.
It was pretty cool because I had a couple guys that were injured, not on the road trip, and they were rehabbing. Like Jerry Hairston Jr. was out there running bases
sweet,
and stuff. Yeah. So we were up in the press box area while the grounds crew was doing their thing. He said, "We're going to stay up here until they get done." He said they'll finish up here in an hour or so, and then we'll go down the field. And I was watching them, and they were like, you ever dethatch your grass with a dethatcher?
Yep.
And they were doing that with you're basically taking this huge mechanical rake and just chewing that grass. You're pulling it, just pulling all the dead grass out. Yeah.
But I've talked about getting a dethatcher.
They were going around that infield and just chewing the crap out of it.
In between games.
Well, no, the Reds are going to be on a
road trip.
On a road trip for the next 8 days or so, or whatever. And so for the next week, they were. And I'm watching it. I'm like, is that grass going to look all right by the time they get back to play another home game? And they're like, yeah. I mean, I was asking questions
because what's weird about that is it's not you never worry about the blades of grass. That's not the problem. You worry about the roots.
Yep, and that's what they're doing. They're cleaning up those roots to give the healthy grass more room to grow and thicken up. And they told us, I said, it's amazing how resilient grass is, and how when it's healthy, it really does. I mean, like they say that, they say that when you aerate your grass, right? You air, and then you reseed and fertilize. It's the healthy grass will overtake the unhealthy stuff, and you just gotta trust that. Like, you don't need to spray a ton of chemicals on your grass. Basically, is what they're saying.
Oh, really? Ooh, well,
we need to
get some. Looking
we
good.
have some leaves that I've not even been able to identify yet in our our grass.
We've got a lot of broadleaf, but I told you before we came on here that I've been letting it grow high. 4 to 6 inches, and it seems like letting it grow up like that chokes that other.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And stuff like that out.
Right
So
now is a
really
good time to let it grow. Fall, yeah, good time. Hey, welcome to the Horticultural Podcast.
I know everyone's
turned us off by now.
Right, they can't get enough of this stuff. So,
well, what are we going to talk about?
It's high school baseball coaching, right there.
Yeah.
That's what we think about. Well, we had a couple ideas there. I think we were talking about what we thought was a good idea to talk about, and I think this is the do's and don'ts. Are we saying do's and don'ts of baseball parents?
Sports in general, I think.
Sports.
I don't
in
think it has
general.
to be baseball, because I think the things that we'll discuss will cover pretty much any sport that you might have a child playing.
Right.
So, we talked about possibly coming on and doing at least an episode, and if it happens to take us longer, we can do another one.
We could probably do 10
We could do
episodes.
a bunch. We could do a series on this, but basically,
and we have before. This is a recurring topic that we talk about. It's one of the reasons that we started the coaching life is because there's ways to behave positively as a parent, as a spectator, and,
Right.
and there's ways to not do that. So
Yeah,
it's always good to give out some reminders and rehash.
In an effort to want to be useful, to have a podcast that's useful to people. Mm-hmm. Like we're always thinking, well, what can we talk about that may or may not be something that, is has happened to us, recently. We've done those kinds of episodes quite a bit as well. But like just in general, what are some things that we could just have a discussion about, that we could talk openly about, say the stuff out loud that some people may be thinking quietly, right?
Yeah,
that
right.
you and I could just come in here behind the microphones and say them and then put it out there and let people deal with it however they want. Like if you're listening and something offends you, that or makes or it hits close to home,
Makes you feel a little
that's
guilty.
okay.
Convicts you a
It's
little
just
bit.
a podcast, right? It's just us talking about it. Like I remember hearing somebody say one time, I'm just gonna lay it in your lap. If it falls on your toes, that's your fault, right? So let's just lay it in their lap.
Right.
Let's lay it.
So I feel like you've
do's
got a really
and
good
don'ts.
one.
The
Just
do's and don'ts
do's and
of
don'ts.
sports parenting.
Or don'ts and
do's
do's.
and don'ts. Like, and let's break it down. Like, let's think of things like there's some things that you should do for yourself in being a sports parent. There are some things that you should do with other parents. There are some things that you should do with coaches. And there are some things that you should do for your children that play.
Yeah.
So let's think of it in those four terms: yourself, other parents, coaches, and your children. And then there's some things you shouldn't do as well, do's and don'ts for all those four categories. So that gives us some categories, some framework to work in. Do you want to ping pong them? A do, then a don't?
Sure, we can do
Let's
that.
do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
So you start us off with a do. I feel like you
Yeah.
got a good one.
So some do's for yourself. Let's do a couple do's of some things to do for yourself.
Okay.
I'm going to say this one. As a sports parent, definitely do get personal pleasure from your child's participation in sports. Right?
Participation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I really think, I don't want to say, hey, parents, I don't want to totally say, hey, parents, this is your child's experience alone. Don't have anything to do with it, right? Because there's a reason to say that as well. And we'll get to
There is,
that point.
but it's true. There's two experiences,
Yes.
and there's nothing wrong with enjoying that experience. You should enjoy
Yeah.
that experience.
And I can illustrate this. People came up to April and I often while our kids were going through youth sports and said, when do you guys take a vacation? I mean, we did take a vacation, right?
Oh, yeah.
But and I know you've had people ask, probably ask you the same thing. Like, when do you guys are always so involved in, you're going to this, tournament, you're going to that tournament, your kid's going to one tournament, and the other kid's going to the other tournament. You guys never have some time just to enjoy your kids and just to enjoy them. and what they didn't understand is, yeah, that was our time. Like, I look back over my kids' childhood, and some of the most precious moments that we had was during those tournaments. That was enjoyable to me.
Yeah, a lot of memories come from those.
Did not waste a dime. Didn't waste a minute.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good perspective. I was kind of thinking of a different way.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. And I think if you think about it, if you don't think about it that way, a lot of problems can rise up.
Sure. You could regret. I mean, you could get bitter about your kids having to go down.
That was the
these
word I was going to use.
Yeah.
Bitter. Or, you get mentally. Well, you're going to get mentally drained anyway. Mm-hmm. But I guess you would find joy.
Sure.
In that, in becoming mentally drained, if you have that perspective of this is an opportunity for us to share something as a family.
Yeah.
And that, what, when I think about, playing baseball and growing up and that's, I even said it 2 years ago at our banquet, at our high school banquet, that baseball's always been a family thing for, me, my mom and dad. And
Yeah. Yep.
it was special to to have them there when I was playing, and it's special to have them there when I was coaching. So
Yep.
that's good stuff, Coach. That put it on a different level for me.
Good deal. Good way to start.
I don't think I have something that deep. You tipped the. This reminds me of the time that we were supposed to tell everyone what we were thankful for, and you started out with challenge, and I started out with my wife. So,
Well, you may have won that one though. You got real personal and real. Yeah.
well,
I don't have any of my family on this list. No,
Right.
I did. I had family, I think.
I was watching a game the other day on Game Changer. I love Game Changer. Now it's really cool with the videos and things like that.
Yeah.
You can actually watch games instead of just the.
Yeah.
It's almost like they haven't built a lot of permissions or cost around the video.
Right.
So if someone's filming, like anyone can watch it. But
Right.
anyways, I was watching this game and I almost got annoyed because this parent sitting behind the dugout continuously, almost every other pitch, I would say, maybe more than that, kept saying, just have fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just have fun. And I guess there's a do and adult in this, but you know,
It's almost like they were saying it so much they were almost trying to convince themselves.
That's
of
exactly
it.
what they were doing, and that's what I was saying to myself. Like, come on, lady. I'm like,
Your child is probably having fun.
Yeah, this is why they play. This is the situation that they're in. But I think that's exactly what she was doing.
Yeah.
You know, there's alternatives in that situation to say different things.
Yep.
And I think, you know, recognizing that emotion and the pressure and the tension that as a parent spectator, she was feeling, she was responding to that moment by saying, just have fun, which is a very positive message to be giving,
Sure.
you know, kids.
Yeah.
And even as a person that's been around baseball for a long time or sports for a long time, I could I kind of sniffed out exactly what was going on there, and I'm like, just stop saying it.
Yep.
But she was doing a good thing there. She was recognizing a
Right.
struggle within herself.
Right.
To she could have responded in a bunch of different ways in that point, but she was showing encouragement and actually saying something that is very valid.
Right.
To have fun.
Yeah, where she may have wanted to say something negative, she was inserting something positive instead. Right. She was she was pivoting her mindset to something that she knows that she needed to. I mean, maybe we're assuming. We're assuming that.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know what I think would be a good do statement to this? It's like if we're saying, okay, do's and don'ts, what should you do then? A good do statement for your example would be, do learn to bite your tongue.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is you don't have to constantly be saying something at your child's games.
Yes. Well, that's a lesson for coaches too, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it really is. It really is. But there's this felt need, like, and I've mentioned this before as well, that even, I mean, we don't want to say don't cheer for your kids, right?
Right.
But even cheering for them, or even sometimes, the parents are gonna go, you're crazy, like you don't know what you're talking about, like. But sometimes it's annoying to your kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
I've told you the story before about how we asked Kaylee what you want us to say at our games.
Say it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Like we asked her, like, 'cause, basketball games, it's easy to hear everything, right? It's like, what do you prefer for us to say at your games? Like when we're in the stands, like, cheer for the whole team. Like we knew that she wasn't going to say, "Oh, I prefer for you to give me coaching advice from the stands." We knew, I knew that was the answer. That wasn't going to come. But what I wanted to know was like cheer for you individually or cheer for your whole team. Which one? And I was waiting for her to say cheer for the whole team as opposed to me, because she was a very humble kid when she played. She said, "I just prefer you to not say anything."
Oh, I didn't remember that story.
Just nothing. Like my number one preference is for you to not say anything. But if you want to cheer for the whole team. It's kind of the way she said it. I'm like, oh, all right. I mean, I'm good with that. I'll just, and it's hard. It's hard to sit there and just bite your tongue and not say anything. But that was her preference. That was her preference.
And that brings up a good point is, how many of us have that conversation with our kids?
Right.
And maybe we should, if we're not in a, coaching capacity or anything like that, maybe we should ask our kids, how do you prefer it? Obviously, we tell our kids how we expect them to behave during games and, during practice and things like that. So maybe we should, buy into their perspective and desires on how we should behave during those moments. So, and heck, that could have an impact on the way they play too.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So here's a question though, because we like to be useful. Do we have any, it's easy to say that. I mean, I've said it. I remember, about a year into the podcast when we have already talked about how fans shouldn't yell at officials and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm at a basketball game and I'm giving this official all kinds of heck. And Coach,
my brother-in-law called you out on it.
Coach Hudson looked over and said, "Hey, is that what you guys talk about on the podcast?" And I said, "You got me there." But I know one thing that actually I would say you taught me as a coach, but I think I've actually transitioned it into being it as a parent, as a spectator, because when you think everything about sports like coaches do.
Yeah, I know everything about baseball.
Right. Well, I know everything about baseball, football,
right. I know everything about the sports that I don't coach.
You should there was one time I was telling Jake something I wouldn't have done this if I was a coach. I'd have done that. And he's like, you sound like such a dad.
Right.
Wow, that cut deep.
Right.
But I think a great thing, if you're a parent out there and you recognize, man, I am saying too much during a game. I'm angry. I'm not saying the right things. I'm just not behaving properly. And I know I shouldn't be shouting mechanical advice like you said to my kid. Write it down.
Yep.
Write down what you're thinking.
Yep.
And but you can put that in your pocket and you guys can have that conversation later. Not on the car ride home. Another day, another time.
Yeah.
Maybe heading to practice or something like that. But it's very effective.
Yeah, I would say 90% of the time, the things that you write down, and if you wait for a couple of hours and you look at them, just wait till you get home, and then right before you go to bed, pull that out and look at it. There's a good chance that what you wrote down in the moment, you're gonna be like, nah, that doesn't need to be said.
Yeah,
I'd throw it away.
Yeah,
I mean, it really
point.
doesn't. Yeah, and that's a great practical thing to do instead of saying what you want to say.
Yep.
I have a question for the parents that listen to our podcast, and I want you to be honest with yourself, because I don't know. So, it's not gonna impact probably half of them, but there's some out there that it might impact, right? And the reason why it wouldn't impact half of them is because this question may not have ever come to their mind because, well, you'll know why. So have you ever asked your child this question or something similar, like after the game? Hey, why didn't your coach play you more? How is your child supposed to answer that question? Why didn't you get into the game more? What are we doing? What are we doing? Think about it for real. If you've ever asked a question kind of like that, how is your child supposed to react to that?
Yeah. It's almost that you're establishing a precedent. It's almost only negative the way they can respond to that.
Yeah. Or why did your coach do this? Or why did your coach do that? Right?
Yeah. And
you don't know why your coach do. I mean, as a player, I don't know why my coach is making decisions that he's making. Right? Why did he take that pitcher out? Why didn't he put you in? Why didn't he put? Right. I don't know.
And here's the thing. I mean, if you want to know that as a player, you would go to the coach and ask.
Yeah.
So, who's driving that conversation there? If you're the parent asking the kid, if the kid comes, if after the game the kid gets in the car and says, "Man, I don't know why I'm not playing more."
Right.
That's a
right.
How do you respond to that as a parent? But if you're driving that conversation, where's your Well,
Go back to that. Go back to what you just said. If your child gets in the car and says, "I don't know why I'm not playing more," what do you answer? How do you answer that as a parent?
you need to go talk to
There
the
you
coach
go.
and ask him, right?
That's exactly what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ask them. It's not, the answer is not, I don't know, I'll get on the phone right now and text him and ask him, right?
Sure,
I'll, don't worry, son, don't worry, daughter, I'll find out for you.
Yeah.
No, let your child fight their battles.
And see, and when you talked about experience and enjoying the experience of playing, and it was a great do. That's kind of what I thought you were talking about, is just, the experience of being a part of a team and serving a role and having that relationship, and knowing that in situations like that, no one's happy. You want to play. Everyone wants to play. Just like everyone wants to hit a home run.
Yep.
It's a statistic.
Yep.
Playing time is
It's out of your control.
Yeah.
You're not,
Right. But if you can find the enjoyment in that situation right there, when the kid gets in the car and says, "Why aren't I playing more?" Don't know, son. Don't know, daughter. Why don't you have a conversation with the coach? And we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Man, what a life lesson there. What an opportunity to grow as a person.
Yeah.
That's a great opportunity right there.
Absolutely.
So, if you can find joy and you can cherish that experience of teaching your child how to interact with their boss or their superior, things like that, man, that's what youth sports are about.
Yes.
That's what it's all about right there.
So this little conversation has actually led me to think of another do.
Yeah, we're hitting the do's.
Another do.
That's good.
Yeah, another do, right?
That's all right. It's positive.
It's positive, but we always find a way to bring some negative into to positive. Because with every positive, there's a reason why you're bringing it up, right? Because there's been a negative.
I like the style though, because you don't really want to talk about things you don't want to do. You want to talk about things you do want to do.
Yeah, that's how you're useful. So here's another do. Do allow your children to speak for themselves, right? And that's big things as well as small things. So like I have a question for you. Like, well, I'll say this. Like you and I coach high school baseball, and one of the things that I encourage all of our high schoolers to do is to communicate with me yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have these apps that we communicate with the team and the parents and everybody that wants to see our communication. And often I will send out a message saying, I need to hear from you. Like, I need to know who all can be here, or at this time, or we're going to have this work day or whatever.
Sure.
And I'll say, I'll speak directly to the players. Like, I might include everybody in the message, players and parents, because some of the parents might get it and players might not. And they might say, hey, make sure you see coach's message or whatever. Yeah. And so I'll say something like, hey, players, respond back to me, and inevitably I'll have some players respond, and then I'll have some parents respond on behalf of their player.
Oh, interesting.
Do you have that?
Well, I would. I'd see that. I've
had that quite a bit.
I've used Team App. Normally I have a general announcement group that I let the parents join because they want to know things. Yeah. And then I also have a group for things like that, like
just for the players.
What's your walk-up song?
Yeah. We wouldn't send something like that out to the general group. But I mean, every now and then,
I understand.
Like, anytime I have a question that involves, I need to hear from the player. Like, what's your T-shirt size? Something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, right.
Like I'll get a lot of parents who reply, and I usually will remind them, that's great, thank you, but encourage your son to message me. Right. Yeah. And I'll still encourage that because I want them to get used to speaking for themselves, speaking to coach yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's there's a little bit of awkwardness too, because I think a lot of people are like,
what's the big deal?
But, and usually that's, that happens with the younger, the freshman, maybe the sophomore a little bit.
Well, that was going to be my question to you. Like, at what age, and I'm talking about, obviously the bigger picture here is we want them to learn how to stand up for themselves and how to ask questions and how to have an adult
articulate
how to have a conversation with another adult that's not mom or dad, right?
Yeah.
And so we're talking. So the end of that is there might be a day when you're going to need to have a tough conversation, right? Like ask coach why Coach, I'd like to ask you what I can do to get more playing time, or Coach, so those are the hard things. But I'm talking about the small things, like instead of me as a coach talking to parents about when the next practice is, or what uniform jersey we're wearing today, tomorrow, or whatever, I'm going to tell the child that.
Sure.
And if the child has a question about it, I want the child to ask me, like the small things. And so let me ask you this. So if you're coaching a team, at what age do you think your child should be able to communicate for himself or herself? Like at what age should that communication be just with the kids? And expect them to be responsible for telling that stuff to their parents, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to send this out to the parents, and then you tell your kid, we know your kids are tagging along with you.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to sound like, as a coach, you want to. We're not talking about keeping secrets here from your parents. That's not at all what we're talking about. We're talking about teaching kids to speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, honestly, if we're and I would say this, I would say that it's. We haven't done, me and Chastity haven't done a great job at this. We've recognized
with your own kids.
Yeah. And we've been intentional.
Well, I think probably all
it.
parents could say that. I could say that about my kids that are grown now, but back during then, we probably did the same thing.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the kids are already doing it.
They're in school every day with teachers.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. How often, think about as a parent, when do you stop attending teacher meetings? What am I not?
Right. When do they become less
frequent? You
like when do you feel like you don't have to go to the parent-teacher meeting, I guess?
Yeah, parent-teacher conference.
Yeah.
That's what I don't know why I couldn't come up with that.
We're not saying you shouldn't go.
No. But there's a time when you're like, everything's
well, there's
good.
a different, first grade teachers have a lot more people show up to that than
they do.
10th grade teachers do.
But why?
Yeah.
And I think because in that case, you're talking about behavior, you're talking about what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right. The parent needs to know a lot of information. The teacher needs to tell the parent a lot of information so that the parent has more of that role, to correct those things. That gets less and less. I would say at junior high, that kind of falls off the table a little bit. So, you stop doing that. It
becomes more the responsibility of your child.
Right. It's not unreasonable to say, definitely by the time they get into high school, they should be able to do that. The problem...
And we're also not saying don't be involved in your child's life.
No.
And in your child's experiences.
Right.
Just have the discernment of how much to be involved in it.
Right. The problem, Coach, is I don't think we don't have a great system in a lot of ways of preparing our parents for that. In a lot of ways, we... like you and I have that stance of, well, I want to communicate with the kids, and you've already said we allow our parents to be in on that communication, but we kind of expect that kid to be the liaison between the coach and the parent.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I don't know that every coach feels that way, and I don't know that we. Like I said, I don't know that we have a system. I almost think the problem is almost systematic, in that we're not everyone's not in the same direction on that, and I'm not even sure it's.
Well, and it may
get myself in trouble.
It may be one of those things it's just not that important. Like to a lot of people, it's just not that important. Like I don't think about it, right? I just communicate. We need to get the communication out. We need to make sure everybody knows. So I don't care who responds back. I don't care who, just because in many ways that's what I do.
Yeah.
I'll send a lot of mass communication out because just in case the kids don't see it. Hey, parents, here's what we're doing.
Let me tell you something else. We make a mistake as coaches in this regard when we expect our kids to do that. But we're horrible communicators. And our kids aren't getting all the information. They're getting confusing information. That's bad.
That is.
Right? If we're, because the reason we're doing this, I mean, you only do it for two reasons. You're either doing it to develop the kid or because you're lazy and you don't want to talk to the parents.
Yeah.
It's one of the two, right? So if we're really in it to develop the kid, then we need to make it a priority on our part to
As coaches.
to do the best we can in
Yeah.
communicating so that they have the information and
For
are
sure.
prepared to communicate that to their parents. You know
Right.
what I mean? Instead of just surprising them. So, well, you know, I like to talk about that during our parent meeting at the beginning of the
Yep,
year.
yep.
You know, I know you have it in your handbook that you hand out, you know, talking
Right.
about how players should communicate. So just, you know, I don't, basically like you're doing, you know, you kind of try to, you introduce it and then try to curb it as it goes.
Yeah.
And like you said, you're only trying to do that because it's a necessity of life. And by the way, if you are a parent and a player that has an ambition of going and playing at college, guess what? College coaches don't want to hear from the parents.
Yeah.
They want to hear from the player.
Yeah,
And they want the
that's where
players
it
to reach
becomes
out.
and that's where it becomes a really big thing. You know, it's
Sure.
in my mind constantly. I know that's going to be the case. If the kid wants to play beyond high school,
Right.
you're going to have to be able to speak for yourself.
Yeah, but it's our job to prepare them for that,
Yeah.
regardless. And again, it's a life skill.
Yes.
I mean, it's just,
Yes.
it is what it is. So,
Right.
you know, honestly, I don't think it should definitely be focused on in junior high to start to begin.
Yeah, I agree.
At the least,
I agree.
And here's what I'll say. Here's a good question to kind of to monitor, because this is where we saw that we were kind of falling short as parents.
As parents, okay.
Yeah. When you go to a restaurant, does your kid order for themselves?
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy. Some people are like, my wife doesn't even order for herself. I do it every day.
I don't. That might be
Well, that's
true.
your problem, but
But yeah, that's, you know, so, and they, you know, they should, because
sure.
Yeah.
What do you want? And then when they tell you, say, okay, tell the waitress that.
yeah,
The server.
or maybe a haircut. You get a haircut. And does the kid tell the barber or the hairstylist
what kind of style you
how
want?
to cut hair?
Yeah.
So those are types of things that we were like, man, we got
Sure.
this
yeah.
is kind of embarrassing. We're telling them.
Yeah.
We're good, you know. So we, you know, you start, and it's not, you know, it's a learning process. You got to talk through it, and
Here's let's bounce off that even more. Like, you ever be standing? Have you ever been like standing and having a conversation? You know, just out. You're standing out by a ball field watching a game, and your kid's standing there with you, and somebody comes up and they ask the child a question, and you
Jump
like,
in.
you answer for
that's
them.
it. Yes, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I caught myself doing maybe catch yourself doing that and realize, wait, the question was asked to my son.
Right.
He should answer it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I caught myself doing that a lot. Like even as adult children, right? Like I'll be standing with Kaylee and somebody says, you know, hey, you know, what do you like? She doesn't have a job yet, right? And she just graduated, and she gets that question a lot. Like, hey, you know, what are you looking to do? You know, where you applied? And I'll start to answer, well, she's focused on a lot of social, you know, professional sports teams, social media analysts, things like that.
That's the experience part, though. That's what you're feeling there.
Yeah, I know I'm part of that experience with her and helping her find a job, but that's her answer.
Right.
She's the one that should be answering that, right?
Yeah.
But it's so easy to want to answer things for your kids, and it's just a skill. Like here, you and I both have admitted guilt in this.
Right,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Good stuff.
That means we should move on to one that we're good at, not bad at.
Do show unity throughout the season. Support
Unity with whom? Oh, okay.
support the coaches.
Yeah.
Support the other players.
Yeah.
Support the program.
Yep. That is huge.
Even if there's a problem,
Yeah.
you know, if you think you need to have a discussion with the coach, don't allow that discussion to leak out, you know, and negatively impact the team in any way throughout that season. Because if it does, it will.
Yeah.
There's no, you know, it's not gonna be positive. And
Yeah.
I mean, you're not
There
being
is
useful at that case.
nothing positive about working against the coaching or the, you know, what the goals that the team has.
Right.
Like even if you don't agree necessarily with some of the things that, like, we're not talking about, philosophically, or I mean, well, yeah, I guess we are talking about that. But I mean, like we're not talking about if you don't agree with like some behavior, like the coach is a really bad example for your kids. I mean, if you don't agree with that, then I mean, that's another issue for another day to talk about, because do you take them off that team, or do you even get in that situation to begin with if you already knew that, right?
Right.
We're just talking about just day-to-day coaching things. A coach is a good guy doing the best he can, he or she, and just not making the same kinds of decisions that you would make if you were coaching the team.
Yep.
The difference is you're not coaching the team. That other person is.
Right.
And so in those moments, even though you might disagree, show unity.
Yep. And I had some parents this baseball season, that, I disagreed with some of the decisions I made, and I felt like they did come to me on the side and bring it up, but they never let it, in my estimation, I mean, they didn't let it impact the season. They weren't, bringing it up, and
Didn't ask the child on the way home, hey, why'd Coach Martin do this?
Well, I don't know what they asked the kid on the way home.
But I mean, that goes back to what we talked about. Like, it's one thing to disagree and to bring it to you and say, hey, I'd like to pick your brain on that.
Yes.
And then it's another thing to talk to your kid about it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if that person did talk to their kid about it, that was wrong. Should not have done it. I'll say it. You don't want to say it. I'll say it. Don't do that because your kid can't answer the question. He can't answer that question for you, right?
Yeah, right.
But if you have a question, go ask Coach Martin.
Yeah.
He'd be willing to talk with you.
That's actually one of the people came to me and said, "Hey, I don't want to, ask him. I want to talk to you about it and get your perspective."
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I thought he handled it really well. It's funny because as a coach, people and maybe I'm just different, maybe because I'm soft, but I appreciate it, and it makes me a little bit more, it makes those decisions a little bit harder. But
it does, because the next time you do think about that person's advice, perhaps, or whatever it was,
think about the whole season.
And you wonder, right. But I mean, it is, I guess, the point there, in do show support and do show unity, you can add another do to that, and that is do talk to your child's coach. Right? Like,
sure.
It is important to talk to your child's coach about. We're not saying don't talk to them at all.
No.
We're saying if you're invested in the development of your kids and their participation as well, and so there are ways and things to talk with them about, and there are things that you probably shouldn't talk with them. Like if you want to know, if you want to know why the child isn't playing as much, ask. You can ask, but understand you're going to get an honest answer. And you're not going to talk about other people,
right?
Other players and things like that. But you're also going to need to encourage your child to have that same conversation as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, showing support and showing unity in a program and a team is, man, it goes a long way. People don't understand how much easier it is to win when everyone's going the same direction.
You're not kidding.
I mean, it does make a difference in winning and losing.
It's all part of the contagious.
Yeah.
In baseball, there's that saying that hitting is contagious. Mm-hmm. Well, everything is contagious.
It is.
In sports, everything is contagious. If things are going well, you're feeling good. Your body language is good. It's easier to succeed in those situations. The opposite is true.
Yeah,
and
it's almost like you're in a boat and you got 4 people rowing one direction, and then you look back behind you and somebody back behind you's got their hands in the water.
Absolutely,
and they're holding you back.
Yep, for sure.
It affects the entire team.
And we preach those things to what I would call our role players or our rotational players that don't play a lot. They still have a role on that team that can. Mm-hmm. Greatly impacted, and we've been really beneficial, or we've benefited greatly the last couple seasons of having some players that didn't get a lot of playing time, but that were leaders and that worked hard in practice and did their jobs during games and did it without much issue. So really happy with that. But that and we've had 2 decent seasons in a row, and I think. Yeah. You might lose 2, 3, 4 games if you don't have that.
Right.
And if we lose 2, 3, 4 games, our seasons aren't as nearly as successful as what they're seeing right now.
That's true.
So
Yeah, every single one of them matters. There isn't another tournament to play next weekend if you lose a game in this one.
it's true.
Somebody asked me what the biggest difference is between high school ball and travel ball, and why travel ball doesn't feel as stressful. Like coaches don't feel as stressed out, like wearing flip flops to the game, stuff like that. I'm kidding, they're not doing that. But I mean, and I'm honest, one of my answers was, well, because we don't have another tournament next weekend.
Well-
If we lose in the sectional, our season's done. Imagine being on a travel team and going to your first tournament and saying to yourself, in order for us to keep playing next weekend, we got to win this tournament.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if we lose, we're done.
Yep.
And it feels that way in the league race as well.
Well, and a lot
you
of
lose
time-
one league game, there's a good chance you're not going to win the league.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah. That's why
in a
it's
competitive league.
difficult, and you got to be
Yeah.
up every day.
Yeah.
And you usually only play one game a day too. So in travel ball, you might be playing 2 or
Sure.
3 games a day.
You got a little more to shake, more time to shake things, or less time to shake things off and to move on, basically. So
Yeah.
I got a don't for 'cause I want to try to get off of do's and don'ts, like with the relationship between parents and coach. I'm gonna go back to the relationship between parent and child.
Okay.
So don't expect your child to get anything more from their sport than a good time, some physical fitness, and some skill in whatever, in a sport that they might enjoy for the rest of their life as a spectator after they're done playing even. Like, don't expect more than those things. Mm-hmm. Because I think, and I guess I could add on to that, to think that your child's sport and their participation in that sport is an investment for which you're expecting a return is a road you don't want to go down.
Yeah.
I would say, so don't do that. Don't expect more than what. Well, some people take their kids' sports more seriously than the kid does.
Oh yeah.
You ever notice that?
For sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all kind of things to be said about that one.
Just make sure you're on the same page with your child in their participation.
Yeah. I mean, you could say, make sure you definitely you don't want more out of it than what your kid wants.
Yes.
Well, you're just saying that. So,
Yeah.
it's good to understand, like you and I talk, and I've told a lot of people this. I'm not really for sure how sure, Jake is about playing a college sport,
Sure.
Don't really know.
Yeah.
So I know I can't make that decision. College sport's a lot different than a high school sport.
Yeah.
you gotta love it. You gotta be committed to it, or
Sure.
it's not gonna work
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's not something. But that's true. That's true at every level, really.
It is.
And if your goal is different than your kid's goal of what your expectations are, that's hard to reconcile.
At some point, it's going to clash.
It is.
At some point, it's going to clash with your child.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what it's going, the result of it's going to be is there's a good chance your child's going to get burned out and not want to play anymore at all.
Yeah.
If your goal is higher, I guess I should say, than your child's. Like if your goal is lower, that's great. That's fine. I mean, you don't want to work. I can't. It's hard to think of an example of that, though. Really.
I know a perfect example because I lived it. I'm well known in Meigs County.
You are. You're very well known.
I mean, as a baseball guy. Yeah, just because you're well known don't mean that's positive. As a baseball guy, and when Jake was born, a long time ago, 16
years ago.
Almost 17 now. Everyone was like, "Oh, is he going to play baseball?" I was like, "I don't know." Like, what do you mean? You don't know? He's got to play baseball. It's like, well, why does he have to play baseball? He's like, you love baseball. I'm like, yeah, but he may not. And put him in t-ball. He wasn't very good. He didn't have a lot of talent. Didn't really want to be there.
Who does in t-ball?
And I didn't. Well, shoot, boy, have you seen something? I could show you some t-ball videos. My goodness, kids diving on walls and stuff. Holy cow! the Texas World Series of T-ball. You ever seen that? But I just remember having such a low bar of expectations and just not really, he got an ice cream after the game, got a slushy, whatever. He's happy. That's good. And then he moved one fall. He moved up to coach pitch a little early, and he had a great year. And it was like, oh.
And you went ahead and started making plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was, now I expect you to play like this all the time.
Yeah.
Which is not
You're
only,
already thinking about college at age 9.
to be honest with you, I've never really thought about college ball that much. I mean,
you haven't taught. You don't talk. He's going to into his junior year. This is the big year if you're going to go play in college, right? The recruiting year. And you don't mention much about it to me.
I've just always thought,
if he wants to do it, he'll do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But
you've done a good job with that.
Yeah. But anyways, that's bad to do that. To set that bar of expectation, one, in sports, and especially the game of baseball. My goodness, it is hard to succeed, and you're never going to always stay at your highest level of success. That's just not the way the game's played.
Yep.
It doesn't happen that way. So you'll have good days, you'll have bad days, you'll have good at bats, bad innings, good innings. There's no way to expect. It's irrational to expect that. And two, it takes the fun out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that, and so I had an expectation that wasn't only not unfair to Jake, but it was it was unrealistic.
Yeah, you started dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was silly.
Yeah.
So I think I've come a long way in the last few years.
You've come a long way, but I'll tell you something that you've been very consistent in over the last 17 years. Because you mentioned Jake. Jake's being born is going to almost be 17 years now.
Yeah.
I remember when Jake was about to be born. You know how I remember this?
No.
Because it was the first time I was turned down by you to be an assistant coach. It was like 2005 or 6, and I was taking over the American Legion team in Meigs County. You were the first guy I thought of to be my assistant coach. You're a young guy, just finished college.
I was like the 12th assistant.
And I asked him, that's the first time I asked him. And then the next time I got a head coach job, I asked him again in 2013. And this time it was Jeremiah's turn to be born, I guess. And so that was the other excuse that he gave me. And so that's just that you're using those birth of your children as an excuse to not coach with me. I see.
You know what? I will say this to be useful to young coaches out there. I don't regret that. I don't regret saying.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're being serious now.
Yeah.
Yes,
but here's what I'm going to
100%.
tell you. There's still things I miss in the kids' lives now as being a coach. There's I spend time at the field that I'm not able to spend with them, but if you have a passion to do that, you should chase that passion because the kids benefit.
As a parent,
the kids benefit from that as well,
They do.
and there's benefits that they get of you being a coach. So you will figure that out. And I think you told me that at a time. You told me I think it works out. I had the same thing.
Yeah.
And, you figure out how to make it work, and so
in fact, my first child was 7 or 8 years old. And my second child would have been like 4 or 5 at that time. Yeah, at that time. Yeah. And I did miss. In fact, the reason I stopped coaching that team was because of missing some things that I was regretting missing.
Right.
I'll never forget talking on the phone, the old flip, big, huge Nokia cell phone that I had at the time, and having Brock tell me the story of his first home run that he hit over the fence playing coach pitch. And I didn't see it because I was at an American Legion baseball game.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and I remember, and so then the second story that he told me that I thought I can't keep missing these firsts. It was, hey, we turned a double play tonight. And he explained to me, it was a ground ball, hit the shortstop, and then he flipped it over to second and threw it to first. And Brock played third, but he's like, we turned. He was excited for his team because they turned the double play, a 6-4-3. And I'm like, I'm like, he's excited about it, but he's telling me about it, right? And I missed it. And so I told Will Hazelip, who was coaching with me, I said, I'm not missing anything else. In fact, I want you to finish this season and coach the postseason tournament. I'm not missing anything else.
That's a good story. But that's back to the differences in experiences. That was your experience, and Brock had his experience, and I know that both of them definitely.
He probably doesn't remember those stories, to be honest.
Yeah.
I remember them.
Yeah. They knew what you were doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the kids know that too.
Yeah. And some of them, Mike Deegan. Remember we had Mike Deegan on, the head coach at Denison University?
Yeah.
And one of the points that he made in his book, Let It Rip, was don't go to everything that remember that? Remember he talked about, I don't go to all of my kids' stuff. Mm-hmm. Like they need to experience some things without me there sometimes playing their sport.
Yeah, I've done that more often now and Jake doesn't. He's not. Well, no, that is true because in high school practice, you're not as he practiced football practice. I'm not there, so he played summer league in Jackson this year in basketball, and we didn't go up. So you do that more, and it does. There's some benefits from that too, on both sides. I think almost the relationship is a little bit stronger when you do that. And a lot of times, my practices, if I take him, I'll set up on the hill and do work. I took him to a tryout yesterday. And I
for a summer team next year.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
The travel team, and I just sat in the car for most of the couple guys. We know some people on the team, and they stopped and said, "Yeah, you being antisocial?" I'm like, "Well, that's kind of my nature, but no, I just said I'm doing some work and just let him
have the tryout.
Let him have the tryout, and and
then he can explain to you how it went without you having a perspective from outside the fence.
That's a fun thing. That's a fun experience. If you're used to critiquing your kid and looking and being like, "Oh man, he missed that ground ball," or "Oh, he missed that throw." If you, when they get in the car after one of those and you say, "How'd it go?"
Ask them before you start telling them.
Or not. You don't even know.
Yeah.
You don't even know because you weren't there.
Their perspective.
Yes.
Well, that's an interesting thing to do, even if you did see them and your first thought is, you should have stayed down on that ground ball. Before you tell them that, ask them how they felt they did.
Yeah.
And if they may not remember that. They might be like, "Yeah, it's okay. I made a few errors, but I was able to shake it off and you might be able to go, okay, maybe I should bite my tongue on the. He doesn't need. He shook it off. He doesn't need to hear.
Right?
Because they're gonna miss. They're gonna make mistakes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I just one more thing on that point. Actually, shoot, we should probably make this a two-parter because we're out of time.
It's going to be a 4-parter.
We ran out of time a long time ago.
Oh, it's 12:09.
But I'll tell you something that I did one time, and I regretted it as soon as I said it. And it wasn't one of those that I look back on it years later and regretted it and then wrote a book about it. It was something that I said it, and then as soon as it came out of my mouth, I regretted it. And I wonder if anybody else has ever done this.
I know what you're going to say because I've read the book.
Make your well, you may not. I don't know if I may have put this in there, but
oh, okay.
Say something in some way to make your child feel guilty for the time and the energy and the money that you have invested, the sacrifices that you're making so that they can play this sport.
I think you did.
I think I did put it in there. Yeah. Because it was one of the hugest mistakes that you could ever make, is to say we're spending way too much money and too much time for you to give the kind of effort that you gave. That's not.
It's tough. It's tough because when you say effort.
Well, yeah, because effort, you should expect good effort.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know. It was a weekend playing 8 travel games, and he had a bad game, right? Right. That's why I said it.
That's because you got to expect that they're going to have a bad heck.
He's going to look lazy. They're going to look lazy some days.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And that's
there's a difference between my child is lazy all the time versus he had a lazy game.
Yeah, that's what I say. My kids, they're lazy all the time.
Sometimes they'll have a lazy game though, and maybe there's other things going on, right? I mean, I don't know. A lot of things
that's
going on.
something that's
Yeah,
something
we got to
miss
talk
as-
about that. Yeah.
As coaches and as parents, that these kids, man, they're dealing with so much.
Let
in
them know
life.
what's going on at home. As much as you can,
Yeah.
right? As much as you can reveal.
Yeah, but they deal with a lot of things.
Because we don't know. We really don't know.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
That's about the relationship too.
Yeah.
man, we could. Yeah, we could. We'll
Yeah,
just-
let's do it. Let's
keep
put
it
a
going.
continue. To
We
be
will.
continued. Do's and don'ts. Do's and don'ts
Yeah.
part 2 coming up next week.
If anyone listening has any thoughts or wants us to talk
Add
about a
to
do
it.
or a don't, shoot us an email or let us know.
Yeah, and
reach out to us.
and that's why it's important, I think, for us to say that, because I was speaking with somebody about like the nature of our podcast. I'm actually doing some podcast teaching here this year
Yeah, you
at
told me that.
Scripps and for our journalism department, and somebody was asking me, like what do you find to be one of the most valuable tools that your podcast provides to people, or one of the most valuable aspects of your podcast? And I got to thinking about it, and I thought, I think one of the things that Pat and I like to do is sometimes we like saying things out loud that other people might be thinking, but they don't necessarily want to say it, or that we're afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
And not that we're this cutting edge podcast or anything, but I think that's one of the things, like when you tell people, send us your ideas or send us your questions, send us something that you'd like for us to talk about. I think people know we'll talk about it without revealing who they were. We're not going to say, hey, Dustin Huffman wants us to talk about how to keep your wife from acting like a fool at games, not from personal experience that he has.
Are you editing that out?
No. Then that doesn't happen. That was a hypothetical, right? That is a hypothetical. No, but no, but we'll just bring something up and talk about it as though you and I thought about it.
True.
Or we might
Yeah,
say
yeah.
we had a listener tell us this,
Right, yeah.
But
Yeah, we're not gonna do
but
that. That'd be crazy.
But there are some things that that people need to talk about. We need to get it. We need to say the hard things sometimes. And so sometimes I think it's good for us to have the conversations that are hard and record it, so that people can go back and maybe.
Yeah, and I think we've said it for a long time. It's kind of the slogan of the podcast: join the conversation.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
what we want.
Exactly.
We appreciate everyone listening.
For sure.
Listening.